Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker shills, debt slaves, sirs, peasants, vassals, meat sacks, lobbyists. I'm a useful idiot. Welcome. And yeah, let's talk about lobbyists. Let's go back to the good old USA. And a study came out recently, and of course, as all studies and all statistics and all these numbers that come out of there, they're all suspect. But we can figure some things out and work with them to come up with an accurate picture. In this case, it's about the number of senators and congressmen and ex-House members who become lobbyists. And apparently, back in the 1970s, it was less than 5%. And now we're at the point where it's approximately 50% of senators become lobbyists and 30% of House members become lobbyists. And so that's a pretty staggering figure. And this study goes all the way back to 1976, so it only covers as far back to the 70s, and that makes sense. If it was less than 5% in the 70s, it was nothing to be concerned about, at least at that time. And it peaked around 2000. We actually have less lobbyists now, but that makes sense considering the post crash recessionary period we've been in, because as we know, a lot of lobbyists disappeared as a result of the crash, at least temporarily. But like roaches, they'll come back. And part of that that goes into the fact that it peaked around 2000 as well is because few senators retire, so the numbers are very sensitive to fluctuations. So let's keep that in mind. So, and we also know that few senators retire because the packages they have, certainly in the government, are very lucrative as well. And but considering we have a Congress and a House of Representatives full of millionaires, that becomes a moot point to some extent. So that would also explain why we have more and more, considering we have mostly millionaires in the Senate and the House, why they would gravitate to add more to their wealth by getting out of government and using their government experience to become lobbyists. So it almost seems like we should tax or charge all these congressmen and House members because it's government, taxpayer money and government experience paid for by taxpayer money that gives them this power, gives them these Rolodexes which they sell, and so they wouldn't even be able to have access to this unless the taxpayers paid for it. So it seems like in some way we should be able to charge them for this experience when they become lobbyists. But then of course it's really hard to keep track of how many lobbyists are because they found so many ways to work around it. They can have congressmen sign up and start representing their companies and just call them something else and use different categories and different labels and different loopholes in order to look like they're not lobbying. And the other thing is when we talk about these numbers, about 50% of senators becoming lobbyists and 30% of House members becoming lobbyists, those are only registered lobbyists, and so the actual number is probably not only much higher than that, but nearly double. So one could speculate that nearly 100% of senators, certainly ones who leave Congress and the Senate these days, seem to go into lobbying, and the same goes for the House. So we know those the numbers are probably much higher, as we know. And $3.2 billion industry now. Surged a great deal since the 1990s. So even though it peaked around 2000, of course, it surged in the 1990s. So any dip in 2000 would have been just an interruption in the upward growth of the lobbyist industries anyway. And of course, it's pretty much equal Democrats and Republicans, since there's no difference between these parties and their bootlicker opportunists. So anybody out there that wants to start getting into some bullshit partisan squabbling about who's worse at this than who is it, the Democrats and the Republicans, I can guarantee it's pretty much down the line, because there's a lot of things that Democrats and Republicans agree on, and becoming lobbyists and working with lobbyists is certainly one of them. And you're also more likely to become a lobbyist if you are a party or committee member. So if you're one of these big strongmen that heads all these committees and heads multiple committees, especially when it has to do with taxes and military and economics and anything else where corporations and banks want to have, in military industrial complex, want to have access to you once you get out of government. And studies also show that hiring these insiders pays off. So they know that all this pays off. We know that it all pays off. Everyone knows that it pays off. The companies that hire ex-government employees and congressmen and House members, the taxpayer knows that they do it. The whole circle involved in this nefarious practice, they all know what's going on, and it's just a shame that, like I say, we can't somehow charge or tax these congressmen who use all this government experience that they get on the taxpayer dollar, and only to go serve these corporations. And of course, the other pitfall this brings up is the fact that who are these people going to serve? That their main interest obviously has been to get a job with one of their corporate masters that sends these lobbyists their way and finances their continual reelection. How do you think they're going to vote on any policies affecting any of these companies? And of course, they have to hedge their bets because they don't know who they're going to end up lobbying for. So they have to kiss ass with all the military-industrial complex lobbyists. They have to kiss ass with all the banker lobbyists. They have to kiss ass with all the corporate lobbyists because they really don't know which corporation or military industrial complex company or which bank they're going to end up working for. They just know they're going to end up working for one, so they don't want to piss anybody off. So, but that's all right. They can just piss us off. How about that? I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.